Our guest is Jeanne Dennis.
Make this choice because I believe it's the right choice, and I just have to trust God with the results.
Right, well,
And that takes courage.
yes.
And pass it on. Share the gospel clear and strong. Stand for, claim your heritage of truth.
Welcome to Heritage of Truth, and today we're turning the chairs around because our guest is Jeanne Dennis, who you normally know as the host, and I'm Karn Whiting, and I'm hosting today. And today we have a delightful book by Jeanne Dennis and her friend Sheila Seifert, Bible Kidventures. I love this book. I got this book and I started to read it and said, oh, this is a book to do with my grandchildren. So I said to Ethan, why don't you come and we're going to read a book together. And I started reading it and we got to this first choice in the book because like those choose your own ending and choose your own middle and every other part of it, this had it. And quickly his sister Lily came over and said, wait a minute, I want choices. So we started at each one, like this one here that says, choose one. If you agree with your sisters and begin yelling, turn to page 83. Choice 2, if you tell your sisters to be quiet so you can hear what Moses is saying, turn to page 5. And of course Ethan said, I want to tell my sister to be quiet. And so we had so much fun with that. And we would get to choices, and they started when they saw what would happen each time. They said, oh, well, let's see. Is this the better choice or is this the worst choice of what would be in the Bible? And every so often they'd find, well, I don't think it mattered which choice we made. It was sort of neutral. And we'd have to keep going. And then every time we got to an end, when it said the end, because we made the choice that brought us there, they'd say, oh, it ended too soon. And they wanted to go back and do it all over again, making new choices just to see where the path would lead us. So, Jeanne, I think you've got a hit here.
Well, I hope so. Well, one of the things I wanted to point out is Bible Kidventures is actually the series name, and this book is called Stories of Danger and Courage.
Wow.
So Focus on the Family has some other books in the same series. And this is Stories of Danger and Courage.
There was danger and there was adventure. The Red Sea parting. Do we go through? Do we wait? What do we do? All sorts of adventures with the Egyptians, with Joshua, with being trapped. Oh dear. With an attack and an escape in Acts. That you've got to see what's happening in here. But don't do this book alone. Do it as a group with your family, your grandchildren, a brother and sister together. Because, you know, with books so often we're off there, we're in our little place reading, and we're isolated. And we isolate so much with technology.
Yes.
I think this can join families together.
Yeah, I hope so. I think, our family has always read aloud ever since our daughter was tiny. And that is a lot of fun, especially with the choose your own ending type of book.
Yes.
Because it sounds like your family really had fun.
I think it should be choose your own next turn in the story. We did. We had so much fun. We're going to do it again because even though we may know where to go last time, we want to make new choices and just enjoy it.
And we purposely made some of the endings neutral. Depending on the choices the children make, they might end up in different parts of the story. Like, for example, in the Jehoshaphat story, the boy might have ended up with the enemy, in the camp with the enemy, or he might have ended up with King Jehoshaphat, or he might have been stuck in his own town. So you're seeing each story from different perspectives.
Right.
And sometimes the choice is a good or a bad choice.
Right.
And you find out that your choices really can matter.
Yes, because Ethan and I ended up in the enemy camp. We did. And he said, I should have made a different choice. And I said, that's true in life. And isn't that what we want them to think about?
In fact, the best feedback we got on this book was from a young boy who said that this was his favorite book because he realized his choices matter to God. And that was just amazing for us to hear.
Right. And Heritage of Truth is all about teaching those basic truths to our children, to that next generation. And what a wonderful way to do this, of the adventure of a story and then finding out something makes a difference. What brought you and Sheila to think about doing this type of series?
It was actually an editor's idea originally, but Sheila and I had been in a writer's critique group together, and I was asked to actually write the stories, and I knew I couldn't do it in the time period that they wanted, and they said, well, could you find a co-author? And I thought of her, and I thought, well, I haven't seen her write this kind of thing, but I just kept feeling the nudge that I should call Sheila. And I called her, and she goes, yes, yes, I've been wanting to write something like this. And she and I went from there to write, I'm trying to remember, 6 or 7 books together, including a novel and an adult novel. And she was the most incredible co-author anybody could want. She was great.
I've worked with Sheila as my editor at Focus on the Family when I was writing for their magazine. So
Yeah.
she is very good. And it's great to have someone to work with, because so often as writers we can be lonely and sitting off in our own little cubicle just doing our thing. But I think it's great that the start was teamwork, and it ends up with a book that's great for a family to do together.
That's right. That's right. The stories are, just so people know, there's 4 of them in this book. Deadly Expedition takes place during the time of Moses, during the Exodus. And Trapped takes place, you're the main character, you know, in Choose Your Own Ending books, you are the main character. So as you're reading it, it's in first person, or second person, I'm sorry. You do this, you do that. So in Jericho, you are Rahab's niece or nephew, because it's for either boy or girl. And so you're seeing it from inside Jericho. And so that's kind of an interesting perspective. And then Attack takes place during the time of Jehoshaphat, when he's got these 3 or 4 armies coming against him, and it's like, oh, what are we going to do, Lord? He calls all of Jerusalem together for prayer and fasting, and then the worshipers go out first, and God wins the battle for them. So that's a really exciting story from the Bible. And Escape takes place in the New Testament times, just as Stephen is martyred, and then there's a persecution that begins against the new believers. And actually, can I tell you my favorite ending?
I was just going to ask you that. You've jumped the gun here. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. My favorite ending, I don't know if I should actually tell people, but it takes place on a hill outside of, I believe it's in Jerusalem, and the boy or girl is meeting a shepherd, an old shepherd who had been there at the time of Jesus' birth and had seen the angels. So that's my very favorite ending.
Oh, very good. And do you have other favorite scenes within this book?
One of my favorites is when the child or the reader, whoever it is, wakes up in the camp and everybody is kind of killing one another when the Jehoshaphat's expecting all these armies to attack them, and they all kill one another, and it's kind of like, you know, just seeing the power of God at work. Right. And there's a lot of them. There's another one where in Escape, where the reader has to make a decision about whether to go back and warn the family, his own family, about the persecution that's coming. The people are coming to their home to try and arrest them, or to let this other person know, a friend of the family, and they have to make that choice. And then there's different ways that ends up, but that person has to make that choice. That was another one that I enjoyed writing.
Right. Well, you know, we all face tough choices in life, and how do you think this will equip children as they face choices in life?
I'm hoping that as they read the book, they'll start thinking about choices they've either had to make or will be making soon, and they'll see that, wait a minute, what would God think? What is the right thing based on what the Bible tells me? And based on the real characters in the story, because we kept everything absolutely scriptural. If there was something that we knew happened in Scripture, then that's the way it happened in the book. But where there were areas where we have no idea, like if this boy stayed in the town when everyone else went to Jerusalem, then we can't know what happened in that town, so we made that fictional. So I'm just hoping that they will see the real characters in the Bible and see what they did, and then our character, who is the person who's making the choices, that they'll see that they can make choices that are going to be pleasing to God and are going to have good results. And also that sometimes when you make the right choice, you're going to suffer, not because it isn't the right choice based on what God wants you to do, but because we live in a fallen world, sometimes we will suffer for doing the right thing, and that's okay.
Yes, yeah. And, it can be hard to get boys to read because there's so much that pulls them away, draws them, whether it's outdoors in sports or technology and those types of games that they can find to play that are not going to be reading based. This book, I thought what was interesting is there was always action, and boys like action. They like things that are gross, so blood and gore is okay for them. They like all that type of thing. And it seems to me that you always had action before every choice.
Yeah, we tried to make sure that happened. Now, Sheila is the mother of boys, and I only have a daughter. So I was the soft side of things. She was the one who kept saying, well, we have to have the character die here. And it's like, oh, Sheila, do we have to? So we made a good balance.
Oh, good. That happens when you work with another author, and when you have that different perspective of parenting girls or parenting boys. But I do think it's great to do a book that will engage boys to read. What engages them often is humor, action, grossness, adventure, and you have most of those elements. Tell me a little bit about humor in the book.
I can't remember a specific one in this, but we had done a Choose Your Own Ending story for Focus on the Family Clubhouse magazine. And this was always my favorite humorous thing we ever did. It was the Tower of Babel, or Babel, however you pronounce it, and there was a point where, everybody, their languages changed and people couldn't understand one another. Well, the character in one of the choices ended up getting a bee in his mouth, and his tongue swelled, so that his or her brother could not understand, and thought that the sibling had learned a different language or speaking a different language. So that was kind of fun.
I think some of the scenes themselves had humor in it. I'm looking just at this one, and it's with Pharaoh and Egypt, and at this point it says, you hurry past tens of the other Israelites and threw the herd of goats in your way, and just that type of thing. The imagery makes you laugh. I can remember my grandson just laughing, a herd of goats, and I said, yeah, did you hear of goats? So we sort of put that in just because it was so open to that. The coast is clear, much wind you fear runs down your back, and you hesitate. So part of it is sometimes in that reading too, and making it look fun. You look back in the direction of the camp. You love your family too much to let them die. If you can reach the Egyptians in time, you will beg for their lives and for your own. Oh, so, but then it goes on. You race toward the approaching Egyptian army. Suddenly, you realize they are coming faster than you thought. What if they are moving too fast to see you? Now you feel like you're a little ant somewhere. But I think sometimes it's just that fast pace of what's happening and the word choices that we use that can make it fun. And sometimes the parent adds that element in the way they read the book.
Definitely. And if parents do this with their kids, I encourage them to put all the feeling into it that you can. I remember when I was first reading aloud to my nephew, I was very young, maybe 18, 19, something like that. And my sister-in-law said to me, you can put a little feeling into that. Because I was just reading words. But I mean, get into it, get enthusiastic, and it'll come alive. Any kind of reading does that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I tend to get enthusiastic, I think.
That's good. That's good. I appreciate that.
I want to make it an adventure while we're doing that. And then stop and go, oh no, what choice should we make? And we read them both, and I said, maybe we go back and think about that. What do you think? And I think that's good to do, to process it a little bit before you let them make that choice.
That is good.
Taking turns. And one said, oh, but it's my turn. And the other said, well, make the bad choice. And he says, well, I'm not a bad person. I think you can just make it into a whole fun time.
Right, you can.
And let that happen. But when you have more than one, you've got to give them whose turn it is, or they might start fighting about that. And we don't need it to break down into a fight when we're supposed to be Bible focused.
Well, the other thing that you just reminded me of is there are redemptive things too. When someone has made a bad choice, we often show redemption that happens as a result of the bad choice too. So.
And is that in your book too? Do you find redemption with some of the poorer choices?
I remember specifically with Attack, there was a redemptive ending when he or she had made a bad choice. Yeah.
And there are 4 different stories. One is New Testament, the other 3 are Old Testament. Is that right?
That's right.
And do you give the scripture references so they know where any of this comes
Yes,
from?
at the beginning of the book, it tells you what references they are. Deadly expedition is Exodus 14, trapped is Joshua 2, attack is 2 Chronicles 20, and escape as Acts chapter 6.
Yeah, one of the things on the back of the book I noticed is it talks about courage. And whenever we have choices, and you're talking about danger and courage, is the name of the Stories of Danger and Courage. Where do you bring in courage, and how do you think this will help children face life with courage?
Well, sometimes the characters have to make choices that take courage. Like, for example, the one I mentioned earlier where the child has to decide between going to warn their own family or warning a person who's very close, and there's certainty that that person will be arrested if he or she does not go and warn that person, but the person will also be too late to reach the family if they make that choice. And that takes a lot of courage. It also takes a lot of trust in God. Because, okay,
Right.
I'm going to make this choice because I believe it's the right choice, and I just have to trust God with the results.
Right, well,
And that takes courage.
yes.
And faith.
Right. And one thing that helps is something called bibliotherapy. That as we are reading, that it's therapy for our own minds and our own emotions. And so as they're reading and maybe seeing the bad choices, they realize there's forgiveness for their own. And when they see courage and maybe lack of courage even, it can help them process good choices in the future and that courage that they need. So I think that's
right.
wonderful, and I'm so happy to have had you on and had the opportunity to read the book, do it with my grandchildren, and interview you, Jeanne. So if you don't have it already, make sure you get Bible Kidventures, Stories of Danger and Courage by Jeanne Dennis and Sheila Seifert. It's a fabulous find for your family.
Thank you, Karen.
Share